Real news, real opinions, and what really matters about Tennessee athletics. The Off the Hook podcast at offthehooksports.com or Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or wherever you go for your favorite podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, TuneIn, iHeart. Like, share, follow, subscribe. Off the Hook with Dave Hooker starts now.
Live from SEC Media Days, it is the final day with the awesome Amanda LaFratta. I am Dave Hooker. We broadcast live from the College Football Hall of Fame that I know looks like a casino behind me. If you like this video, and you're going to, because we have some fantastic content coming up from SEC Media Days, go ahead and like and subscribe. We would certainly appreciate that as always. So, coming up today on the program, Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner, will join us. David Cutcliffe with the SEC as well, former Tennessee offensive coordinator, Duke head coach, Ole Miss head coach. This guy certainly knows the SEC like nobody's business. And also, we will visit with Benjamin Watson, who is former tight end with the Georgia Bulldogs, now with ESPN. Amanda LaFratta, how are you this morning?
I'm doing well. How are you, Dave?
I'm well. It's day 4. This is your first. I did the math, and my first was 25 years ago. So how do you feel? A little like the rest of the media, a little wary?
A little exhausted.
A little exhausted.
Yeah, it's been great, but I'm very tired.
Yeah, it is quite the gauntlet, so you'll never forget your first time, as they say. If you've got comments or questions, you can go ahead and hit us up on Facebook or Twitter, and we will gladly respond to those. So we do have breaking news, which is kind of rare at SEC Media Days.
Yeah.
You had Texas and Oklahoma that broke during SEC Media Days last year, but for the most part, it's not a real newsy event. It's more just rehashing things that we already know. Now, you go back, you had the Fulmer thing, getting served a subpoena and not wanting to come to Birmingham. Sometimes they are newsy, but for the most part, they really aren't. Now we have some news on Thursday, and it's not good news for Texas A&M. Texas A&M's wide receiver, Ainias Smith, was scheduled to be in the house in the College Football Hall of Fame for SEC Media Days. He will not be. Suspended following an arrest early Wednesday morning. So he was out Tuesday night before Wednesday. Smith charged with DWI, unlawful carrying of a weapon, and possession of less than 2 ounces of marijuana there in Texas. Smith, a senior, was scheduled to represent the Aggies at SEC Media Days on Thursday as the team's leading returning receiver from the 2021 season, but will no longer do so. According to CBS Sports, Jimbo Fisher aware of the arrest and looking into the situation. That is certainly not what Texas A&M wanted, to say the least. But, Amanda, it's not just that they didn't want him. They also – he's a captain. He's not just another dude. This is not just a backup offensive lineman that got in trouble. He was the captain that was going to represent them at SEC Media Days. That's huge.
It's really bad. It's really, really bad, especially considering Texas A&M has been kind of in the limelight lately for what they've been doing as far as the NIL goes. And it's just they're not making the greatest decisions over there because you have the kid on, or not even kid, a staff member on camera saying, hey, these boosters pay you, just FYI. And now you have a kid, a captain of the team, getting a DWI. Now, the whole marijuana thing that's for a different day. But the DWI thing is you can't do that in sports, especially not, you're supposed to be at media days on Thursday and you're out on Tuesday. That looks like a disciplinary problem, and that's something Jimbo Fisher has to address.
No, he's going to have to address it, and I bet he's madder than 5 darnets. So, and they're also very lucky that they're in the state of Texas where they have some pretty liberal or loose, whatever the term you want to use, gun laws, because we also saw what happened to Plaxico Burress when he shot himself. He had to go to jail for 2 years. So he's lucky that it did happen in the state of Texas. I guess if you're lucky, you're not lucky if you get pulled over for DWI. So this is Tennessee's big day. Tennessee will be represented by its head coach, Josh Heupel. It will be represented by safety Trayvon Flowers, quarterback Hendon Hooker, and wide receiver Cedric Tillman. We will visit with them, and they will be on our YouTube channel, and they will be up on offthehooksports.com. So as for A&M, they will have defensive back Damani Richardson, offensive lineman Layden Robinson, and they will not have wide receiver Ania Smith because of the DWI. Now, we will see if they bring somebody in their place. It's kind of last second. I know they do a lot of prep for these guys. I don't think I would try to throw somebody in at the last second. I think I'd just bring two and be done with it.
I think you have to bring two and be done with it because you certainly don't have enough time. I'm sure Texas A&M was made aware of the situation either Tuesday or early Wednesday or, at least mid-afternoon Wednesday. That's you're already getting ready to go to this thing. You're already probably boarding a plane at that moment. So trying to prepare somebody enough to get them here, there's a lot of preparation that goes into that. Mainly, hey, don't say this. Don't comment on this. Don't comment on that. This is the answer that you give for this question. You don't have time for that. You don't have time.
That's very insightful, Amanda, for somebody who hasn't been in the media, because you're right, they get coached for like a week of what to say. And you can tell it with some players who kind of listen and they take the coaching. And we got a couple of those coach speak answers yesterday. And then the other guys are like, I'm just going to be me. And most of them, probably 2/3 of the players, are the coach speak type of answers. So, no, I don't think you bring somebody else that could say something about Nick Saban or that could say something that could get you in hot water or provide bulletin board material. I'm not bringing anybody else. That's headlines brought to you by Biles Automotive Group right there on Callahan. Car shopping made easy here at Biles Automotive. Their mission to be the automotive home of drivers in the Knoxville, Tennessee area. They provide a vast selection of used vehicles, exceptional car care, customer service with a smile. So they got selection, car care, they've got service, and right there they also have integrity, and that matters. They want, they need, and they appreciate your business. That's Biles Automotive Group. So Auburn will be here today. Brian Harsin. There's nobody that's on a hotter seat heading into the 2022 season than Brian Harsin. For some reason, with all the defections, Auburn decided to do this internal investigation that I know it was supposed to be internal, but all that stuff's public record. It was just a complete mishandling by Auburn to let that get out. So Brian Harsin actually went in to 2021 on the hot seat, Amanda, and that's not where you want to be in year number 2. He certainly doesn't want to be there in year number 3, but he is. He is the coach on the hot seat, and then it's maybe anybody else you want to bring up.
Yeah. He's the coach on the hot seat. I don't think there's anybody even remotely close in the SEC to being the coach that's going to get the boot. I think it's a 75% chance at this moment, unless he doesn't completely do a 180 and turn everything around at Auburn, he's out. He's out.
I like your number at 75% for the over-under, actually a lot. I'm going to take the over. I think he's even more assured of getting fired. And the reason I say so is because it seems like he lost the team. Running back Tank Bigsby will represent Auburn. There were times on the sideline last year you watch him and you're like, man, this guy is not into it. He wants to be in the game. He's not. He's frustrated. Now, as far as the rest of the representatives for Auburn, it'll be edge rusher Derek Hall, who I think is incredibly underrated because a generational top player is playing right down the road in Will Anderson. But I think Derek Hall is very, very good. He'll go somewhere in the middle of the first round of the NFL draft, and he'll be a solid player. Anderson is just one of those guys in the same state that is super duper special. We talk about Derek Thomas as a generational type of player.
Yeah, I think it's a hard road for Auburn. I'm not going to lie.
They're going to be horrible. They're going to be horrible.
I normally don't feel for them, but I feel for them this season.
John Samuel Schenker will be the tight end representative, which you don't get a lot of tight ends at Media Day, but you're going to with Auburn because they run 4 tight end sets, which might tell you something about Brian Harson's offense. It's just me saying that. Texas A&M, again, Jimbo Fisher, Damani Richardson, a defensive back, offensive lineman Layden Robinson. And without a wide receiver, a skill position player, they have all the star power of a Waffle House. I don't see anything.
Hey.
I mean, I like Waffle House, but
they have the all-star breakfast. Get off the Waffle House.
Sorry, my bad. I don't see a lot of guys on that list, though, I want to talk to. Just to be real honest with you, talking about Waffle House leads us to today's tough question. Did you see Will Levis, the Kentucky quarterback, put mayonnaise in his coffee? And he says he does that a lot. There was video of that.
That makes me want to. It's disgusting. Ugh, gross. How dare you? How dare you? That's terrible.
No, but okay, can I play the other side of it? Because I had somebody tell me one time that conditioner and lotion are pretty much the same, like hair conditioner and lotion. So really, mayo, work with me. I know you're going to call me stupid here in a second. Work with me. Mayo is just basically a creamer, but it's thicker. So if you stir it in, I don't have which he did on the video, I don't have as much of a problem with it.
You have got to be kidding me. You have got to be kidding me.
Okay, so you brought up Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Who likes ketchup on his steak.
Yeah, and he gets his steak well done, I think.
Okay. Okay, so which of the two, if I lay them in front of you, mayo in the coffee, Mahomes ketchup steak, what are you going with? Well, if you have to eat one.
I have to eat one?
Yes. You have to eat. They're both sitting in front of you. You can stir the mayo in really good.
Is death a choice?
Death is not a choice because you're needed at Off the Hook Sports. We're not making it without you. So no, death is not a. Yeah, death is not a. You cannot die.
I can't. Well, I can't do it.
Do you want to make death a choice on the poll? My wife, nice enough to text me and tell me that mayo is not cream; it's eggs.
Thank you. Thank you, Shanda.
Yes, she's very nice. Okay, so here's what I'm going to put. How about today's tough question is Kentucky quarterback Will Levis likes mayo in his coffee, which is more disgusting? Mayo and coffee, Mahomes ketchup steak, I'd rather starve.
I would say what would you choose, giving the options? Mahomes and his steak ketchup thing, Levis and his mayo thing, or getting tackled by Will Anderson. Okay. You got 3 choices.
Okay. Okay, so I like that. So today's tough question. Kentucky Will Levis likes mayo in his coffee. Let's go with this right here. Then we'll go with which would you say least?
No. Which would you rather choose?
Okay.
The mayo in the coffee, the Patrick Mahomes ketchup steak, or getting tackled by Will Anderson?
I like that. That's very good stuff. So that's out there on Twitter. If you want to take part, we would love for you to do that. And we will also listen to you right here, your comments on Facebook or Twitter, wherever you want to put them. Amanda has her finger on the button, so she can certainly cue you in. If you got comments, we would love to hear them for you. So I just, I wonder where the young man's mind is at Texas A&M when he's going out on this is just a Tuesday night he's going out. And listen, we all have different thoughts on marijuana, but the gun, now I get into this when Tennessee had a basketball player. I think it was Tyler Smith. If you have, what are your thoughts on college kids having a gun? Because here are the two sides I heard when Tennessee had a basketball player that had a gun. Now, his gun also, the registration was rubbed off, so that's not a good sign. But there was the protection aspect of it, that a lot of people come up to him and know him, and he doesn't know them. So, Amanda, I'm not going to say that just having it. I would rather my kids at a similar age, 19, 20, 21 years old, I'd rather them not have a gun unless they've been properly trained. And I'm fine with it if they are. But I don't know that he has been, and that would concern me. If I were his parents and they're not big gun people and he hasn't gone through training, that would concern me as much as anything. Because when you add a gun to the situation and you're not trained to use it, you can go from somebody getting a broken nose to somebody losing their life.
Objection. That's speculation that he has not been trained to use a gun.
Total speculation. Agreed.
However, I'm a constitutional carry advocate. I think that if you want a gun and you want to be able to protect yourself, you should be able to have a gun and protect yourself. Now, I do think that you should go through the proper training and go get your, if you don't want to get the license to carry, which you don't need anymore in Texas or in Tennessee, if you don't want the license, that's fine by me. But at least go get trained. Shoot it before you get it. Go to a shooting range, take a class from an instructor. I'm not saying you have to have a permit. I think it's good to have a permit. However, take a class from an instructor before you go just out with your weapon. I'm just saying.
I agree. We have already had the votes pour in, and nobody's pouring mayo in their coffee.
It's disgusting.
Right now, they'd rather be tackled by Will Anderson, or they would go with the Mahomes ketchup steak. Well, tackled by Will Anderson, that sounds awful. But if I had to choose between the two, Mahomes ketchup steak and mayo in my coffee, surprisingly enough, this might surprise you, I would go with mayo in my coffee.
I'm not surprised because you've been trying to upsell this mayo in your coffee.
Upselling mayo, yes. We're brought to you by Duke's Mayonnaise.
Gross.
I just cannot stand ketchup or A1 sauce on a steak. And and you mentioned he liked it well done, which we didn't have room in the Twitter world to fit that in. But you did mention that.
I think so.
You would think if he puts ketchup on it. That to me ruins a good steak. Mayo may ruin a good cup of coffee, but it's just a cup of coffee. A cup of coffee is a nickel. A good steak, $12, $14 if you're going filet, and you put ketchup on it. Oh my gosh. So I would rather, just for the respect of the product, do the mayo and coffee. So does that at least make sense?
I understand what you're saying. However, I'm a very big advocate for coffee. Obviously, love coffee, love honeybee coffee. Just saying, love it. Putting mayo in coffee is a complete lack of respect for the coffee bean itself, and for everything that it's taken to get the bean over here to the U.S. to grind it up. No, absolutely not. That's disgusting. However, that cow made a sacrificed its life so you could enjoy steak. You should not get it well done. Absolutely not. You can get a bag of beef jerky if you want to do that. And second, putting ketchup on it ruins it, completely ruins it. Amen. So the obvious answer is to get tackled by Will Anderson, because no one dies and you sacrifice a little bit of pain, and that's it. That's it.
Amen. Hey, Ken, I appreciate it. So just found your channel, enjoying your show. Please subscribe, Ken, to YouTube, and we're going to have sneak peeks. We've actually just had so much content come out of the past couple of days. We haven't had an opportunity to get it all up. So you can hear David Cutcliffe on our YouTube channel, which is great. Greg Sankey. There's more stuff that we haven't put on offthehooksports.com. It's a plethora.
So much.
And all of that, major kudos, if I may take a moment, to Amanda and her awesome husband David LaFratta, who came down here with us, because for those of you that wondered where we might have been at times, for some reason I decided to pour a Diet Dr. Pepper in the back of my computer. So we have had technical issues beyond what I've ever dealt with before. So we certainly appreciate your patience. But Amanda's been able to throw heat throughout the week. So today's tough question. They don't have mayo and coffee. I guess you could do it at Big Orange Phillies, but I wouldn't. And you could put ketchup on your steak, I guess.
Please don't.
But please don't.
Please don't.
Because at Big Orange Phillies, they got fantastic food. They've got the quick bites. They know it's tough to get out of the office for a long lunch. They're good at getting you quality food fast. Grab something cold from the fridge or order hot food from the counter. That is Big Orange Phillies. It's right there on Maynardville Pike. It is just down the road from Maynardville and very convenient to all of North Knoxville. So we want to encourage you to check out Big Orange Phillies and stay for a while. They've got karaoke, they've got pool, they've got, billiards, have a pool. So they've also got darts. It's a fantastic place to hang out in North Knoxville. So as we move forward, coming up on the program, as I said, we're just loaded with content today, and I think you'll enjoy the show. We are going to visit next with Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner. What did you take away from Sankey, Amanda? What was your one biggest takeaway?
Ooh. I think he is stuck, or not stuck, but I think he is sticking to the 16 teams as of now, which I very much enjoy. I'm very glad about that. I think the NIL is still an issue for them. I think he doesn't really know what to do, and I think he's also he's kind of putting it off on the NCAA, and I don't blame him. I would do that as well, because it is their fault, essentially.
I really thought the SEC would just take over, to be honest with you.
You can't hurt your program just because, you can't hurt the SEC by following rules that don't exist. So you can't just hurt the SEC by the entire SEC to get them in line when, the Big Ten, Michigan, Ohio State, whoever, now USC, is going to pull out all the stops to take those players from you. So I understand where he sits on this issue.
Yeah, I do. I thought there would be a tenor at SEC Media Days of the SEC just kind of taking over. I really did. And that hasn't been the case. And maybe that's not practical. And let's face it, Greg Sankey doesn't want that job. I mean, that job is very similar to the NFL, being the NCAA president. Who would you rather be, the SEC commissioner or the NCAA president? The NCAA president just gets ripped all the time. He has no real control. He essentially just does whatever he can to cover stuff up. At least with the SEC commissioner, you have some semblance of order, and I think that the SEC has that. So as we broadcast live from SEC Media Days, let's take a look at today's tough question. So right now, mayo and coffee has not gotten a single vote. Mahomes ketchup steak has gotten a couple of different votes. Today's tough question. Kentucky quarterback Will Levis likes mayo in his coffee. He did that via video yesterday. Which would you choose if you had to? Mayo and coffee, Mahomes ketchup steak, or tackled by Will Anderson? So far, it's tackled by Will Anderson, and it's off to an astounding lead because I don't think people understand what it's like to get tackled by Will Anderson. I don't think people sometimes understand what it's like to play football. Amanda, can you imagine if you and I just fell down 40 times and got up, how we would feel the next day? Just fell down on our own. Nobody knocking us down. That's essentially what football players do. So,
I mean, I'm sure, but I would rather fall down 40 times than make somebody or make someone force me to eat a steak with ketchup on it or drink coffee with mayo. Now, to be fair, Mahomes, he got a deal with Hunt's ketchup, I think, because he was so adamant about it. And I know we talked to Roger McCreary yesterday, and he got a deal with Bush's baked beans because he eats those so much. So maybe
the Bush's people said he did.
Yes, well, but he said he ate beans all the time.
He did. He does eat beans all the time.
Yeah.
I was told he eats 2 bowls of beans before every game, and he looked at me like I was insane.
That's true. However, maybe Will Levis can get an endorsement from because the NIL's alive and well, so maybe they'll just pick him up and put him on, some mayo commercials.
Did you know actually that the dog is named Duke?
Out of the Bush baked beans.
Yeah, the Bush beans. And there's a Duke's mayonnaise. That dog started that company years ago.
The Duke's mayonnaise?
The dog started it. Yeah, the dog started it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Maybe not.
You should tell some of your bean jokes. That'd be great.
You're a great human being.
I know I am.
All right, Zool Beer, nice enough to sponsor us as we come to SEC Media Days, this being day 4, I believe, Tennessee coming up. Zool Beer Company, panoramic view right there in downtown Knoxville. What can you tell us about Zool Beer Company?
It's amazing. I mean, it's some of the best beer that you'll ever have, if not the best beer that you'll ever have. If you like drinking beer, if you like IPAs, then that's the place to go. If you like sours and not the vinegary kind of sours, because I've had those, that the sours there are highly fruited, are very, very good, very refreshing. You should go get a burger on Friday or Saturday and enjoy.
One other note that I did want to bring up, the NCAA Council endorsed a concept that would eliminate the blanket rule prohibiting transferring more than once. So you have this rule that you can transfer once and play immediately, which flies in the face of everything that college football was just a couple of years ago. But you can play immediately. I'm all for the players. But if you transferred a second time, you essentially needed a waiver. It looks like that has been struck down. What are your thoughts on that, Amanda?
This is absolutely ridiculous. This is the NFL times 2. The only thing the NCAA isn't looking out for the players. They're looking out for the money. So to have a player where you tell them that, hey, if you don't like it here, you can transfer. And then if you transfer, guess what? You don't like it there, you don't get along with somebody, you can just quit. You can transfer out. You can go somewhere else. You have all these options. In real life, that's not how it works. You don't just get to, if you don't like something at a job, you don't just up and leave it and go to another job. And if you don't like something there, up and leave that and go to another job. Like you have to have some kind of loyalty. And I understand coaches are the same way. I get that. So I think there should be stipulations to this. Like if you have a sickness in your family, even if you just miss home, or if if the coach leaves, then I think you should get to transfer out because you signed up underneath the coach or the offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator, whatever the case may be. You should be able to transfer after that. However, this just transferring because you want to kind of thing is ridiculous. We're going to have to implement contracts like they do in the NFL. That's what we're going to have to do. We're going to have players to sign contracts with teams for a certain amount of years. Or if it's the NIL deal, they have to sign a contract to say, we'll stay for 4 years, and that's it. Or 3 years.
If you can figure it out, you're smarter than me, because I don't know what they're going to do. They've got an insano mess on their hands, and really the NCAA and Mark Emmert is what allowed all of this to go down. If you step in and you don't fight the Ed O'Bannon case, because all of this started with NCAA college football games. So if you step in, and by the way, Amanda LaFratta is Amanda LaFratta, not Sankey on the video screen. So, we're not Sankey
Sankey
yet.
Sorry.
So we'll get that changed. But if you if you step in with the Ed O'Bannon case, and for those that, I mean, this case has been going on for 20 years. For those that don't remember, he is the UCLA basketball player that thought they deserved a bigger piece of the pie of NIL, and he won. And they fought it for years just to basically stave off. It's kind of like saying, I'm going to go on a diet Monday, so I'm going to eat all I can over the weekend. So they just pushed it off and pushed it off.
Is that not what you're supposed to do?
That's what I do. But
That's what I do.
Yeah, me too. But it came to roost now. And now Mark Emmert's gone, and he's like, peace out. I'll just get my direct deposit. You all work it out.
That is terrible. And I'm sorry.
Oh, I agree.
But USC needs to go back, and they need to hand Reggie Bush, an apology letter. You need to write that apology letter right now. You need to have a presentation to hand him his Heisman Trophy back. And the NCAA needs to come in and reinstate that national championship, because this is ridiculous.
Wow. You could go back on a lot of things.
Yeah.
I was surprised touring Southern California. They hate being called Southern Cal, that they still had O.J. Simpson's Heisman Trophy up.
And not Reggie Bush's?
I know. I mean, I think one guy did something a little worse. I may be wrong, Amanda. Correct me, but double homicide?
Allegedly.
Oh, come on.
I'm kidding. Yes, we know he killed her. And we know he killed them.
Greg Sankey coming up next, the SEC Commissioner. Coverage also brought to you in part by our friends at Craft Treats, full spectrum CBD treats, minor cannabinoids. They'll take care of your pet via those minor cannabinoids. If it happens to be stormy outside or they've got car ride anxiety, Craft Treats will take care of you. Again, go to crafttreats.com. So Greg Sankey coming up next as we broadcast live with Amanda LaFratta. I am Dave Hooker. SEC Media Days at the College Football Hall of Fame. This is a presentation of Off the Hook Sports.
Hey folks, Gary Viles here. I want to personally invite you to North Knoxville's newest sports bar and restaurant. It's Big Orange Phillies, located in Black Oak Center. And yes folks, it's happening in Halls. Big Orange Phillies offers family-friendly environment with homemade meals and the best deli-style subs around. Billiards, darts, jukebox, shuffleboard, and cornhole, and a full bar. We also offer valet parking on weekends and during special events. We even have a covered back patio. It's happening at Big Orange Phillies. We want, we need, and we appreciate your business.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard Heating and Air Conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
This is Al's Dish Barbecue Supply, so come on in and see all the different rubs and sauces we have, plus a complete line of Green Mountain grills. Don't be overwhelmed. We have plenty of help so you can produce the best barbecue and amaze your family and friends. Barbecue is America's food, and we'll do what we can to bring you all the best products. We're Al's Nest Barbecue, where Chattanooga goes to grill.
Do you want to own the more that owns every job? Then get to Vassy Lawn and Garden in Cleveland and get you a Toro. I'm David Vassy, here to talk to you about Toro. With a Toro Zero Turn, you'll get more out of every minute and you'll reach the finish line faster. At Vassy's, we like to say, no matter if you're mowing 3 acres a week or 11 lawns a day, homeowners and business owners alike find confidence in equipment they can trust from top to bottom.
Vassy Lawn and Garden, Highway 60 North in Cleveland.
Man alive, it's worth the drive.
Welcome as we broadcast live from SEC Media Days, the unofficial kickoff to the football season. Super excited to visit with our next guest. He's kind of somebody, SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey. Commissioner, how are you, sir?
I'm well, thank you. I've talked a lot, but I'm doing fine.
I know you'll be at the end of the day. You'll hate to hear yourself talk. That's what I hate. I'm quiet.
We're on day 3, and I go quiet at night after each of these days.
Well, if you want to, it was about this time last year that the Texas and Oklahoma news broke. If you want to drop something like that on our show, go ahead.
No, I survived that one. So I said at the beginning of the day, when I took the podium to introduce the first coach, I said, my goal is not to make any news today. So far, so good, but there's a few hours to go.
Oh, yeah, we got a 24-hour news cycle.
Yeah.
I can't imagine being in your position right now. I think you've done a fantastic job of leading the SEC, and I'm not just saying that because you're sitting here. I think you have. But you're in this position that theoretically you could exert more power. You could do more and be more aggressive. But you also care about the sanctity of the game. Just from a day-to-day business perspective, how do you weigh that?
That's really a fascinating question, and there's a depth to it that I'll probably tonight think, oh, I should have said this and should have said that. So there's a growth reality. I was a small conference commissioner before, which was great to be at the end of the hallway and be accountable for decisions in an organization, but to be, if you will, off Broadway so that my errors weren't like headlines. And then the opportunity to work in the SEC and learn a bit, but until you're in the chair, you don't appreciate what it's like to sit in the chair. And so now I'm in my 8th year, gone through any number of challenges, and hopefully I've grown as I've gone. And certainly the COVID shutdown, the summer, the return to play in 2020, and then trying to make it through the season in football, and not to mention every other sport, was a growth opportunity. My comments Monday, I think, are a reflection of some of that security that's built up, plus the leadership of our presidents and chancellors. When we finally did get together, first of all, they had enough trust in me that we didn't have to meet right away after the Big Ten news related to their expansion, so that we could sort out fact from fiction, and then just talk through what it is we might want and who we are. And what you heard was a security, if you will, in who we are, not a complacency, but a competence in our decision-making last year, our move to 16, and our future as a group of 16. And so, could we do things? Sure. I've had plenty of phone calls where I could say, let's get after this. I think you have to exercise care and also understand your culture and your philosophy of why you make decisions. There's also a great deal of self-reflection involved, like, did we do the right thing? And a weight that you bear, like, are we making the right decisions now? And whenever I stop that deep self-evaluation, is probably the time to step away, because I will have become complacent or overconfident, and I never want that to be part of the role.
It's interesting. Do you have a list in your head? I just wonder if you have teams that when and if you decided to expand, you would go after. I know you're not going to share the teams with me, but do you have those in your head? Do you think like that?
Well, I think, first of all, there has to be a really good basis for why one would expand. And you don't just expand to go to 18 or to 20 or to 24. You expand for reasons. And I'm one who never thinks that you just put money out there, because that causes you to make bad decisions. Even last year, neither Texas nor Oklahoma called and said, how much money can we make? It was a recognition of how we've made decisions, how we've grown, how our universities have positioned themselves, and how we support athletics, and really a recognition of a consistent philosophy. That's why you grow. And I would just go through those issues to say, if we ever were to expand, you want outstanding universities that attract students from all over the country and all over the world, who support athletics at a high level and have the ability to compete and make leadership contributions within this league. I've talked about geographic continuity and contiguous states, which is a fancy way of saying states that touch ours, but that's a whole lot of the country. That's right. New Mexico to the Carolinas up to Indiana. And so it really comes back to a cultural fit and a philosophical fit.
So we all saw the Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher thing. We saw that happen, and I'm not going to touch on that. But I was just going to ask you, we have such big personalities in the SEC, especially as coaches. How do you deal with those on a day-to-day basis? How do you rein those in?
Yeah. Couple of thoughts. So I actually joined the SEC staff back in the fall of 2002. So my first spring meeting was May of 2003 in Destin, and I had never been in a meeting of our head football coaches before. Now, I had worked in a small conference office with head coaches, and in fact, like half of our baseball coaches at the time I had worked with. So when I went to our baseball coaches meeting, it was easy. But I remember consciously as I walked into the head football coaching meeting, I was uptight. I'm walking into a room full of millionaires and big personalities. You had Jackie Sherrill, Lou Holtz, Nick Saban, David Cutcliffe, Philip Fulmer. I could kind of go through some of the list. Rich Brooks at Kentucky, Bobby Johnson. I think right around that time, Mike Shula was brand new.
Oh, boy.
Now Senator Tuberville. So it was a fascinating experience to just walk into that room. And there were some tense moments that day. So I've had the ability to adjust to that. On the other hand, I have the opportunity uniquely to get to know our head coaches as people. So rather than seeing them behind a microphone or on a stage or on a TV, I get to have conversations about, with Kirby today. I know Mary Beth, his wife. I've gotten to meet his kids, just talked about where he spends his time. Jimbo and his wife were down at Destin out to dinner. My wife and I were going to dinner, and I talked to him about the foundation he runs to support his son and his really chronic disease and what they've done from a research standpoint to overcome those things. That's what's not seen, that when you have some of the tense moments, you build relationships to help you get through. The moment that I kind of realized what was going on, I was in New York City. It was almost midnight. I was at an event, and you're trying to process your way through that. And I don't think there's a formula for how to deal with something like that. And so it does come back to relationships, to trust mutually. I have a job to do. They have a job to do. And while people will agree, other people will disagree. You try to move forward in your decision making in the most effective way possible.
Commissioner, as far as the time frame, some regulation that we might see on NIL, what are you hopeful for in terms of, in particular, recruiting? That seems to be the one bugaboo that's out there, promising money to prospects.
Yeah, very much so. And if you go back to 2019, as we talked about how do we want name, image, and likeness to come on board, there are a set of issues. The very first one was not to have this introduced on a state-by-state basis. That's exactly what we have, because that creates confusion for coaches. It creates confusion for administrators. It creates confusion for young people and their parents as they're trying to figure out, where do I go to college? And that last being the most important point. But that's what we have. We also have legal outcomes and ongoing legal issues that limit the NCAA's ability to just solve that problem. Stated more directly, the NCAA can't pass a rule that puts a state university in conflict with a state law. That's just untenable.
Right.
It's impractical. And so you then look to Congress to enact the national standard so that everyone operates under the same structure. That doesn't mean Congress has to solve all of the problems around college athletics. We've had a common basis for the approach to the scholarship, which has worked for decades. And now we've been informed that may be too limiting. And so to have a national standard, you're going to have congressional action. Between now and the midterm election, I think that's a tough proposition as you start to ask about time. So our focus is on educating, both learning from House and Senate members, but also communicating with them what's happening and the importance of their engagement. And that puts us into the next Congress. So hopefully we'll have some early signals on success when the next Congress is in place. If we're not able to move forward at the federal level, we're going to be back to our states, engaging in conversation with our current 11 states, soon to be 12 states, about a common approach. And I think there are some leaders at the state level willing to enact that legislation, but they also have to oversee that type of legislation. So there's some work to be done. It's not going to be an immediate hit the easy button and we solve it in 30 days. And so there's going to be some stress involved. How's that for a simple analysis?
So it sounds like you're telling me that any NIL legislation, though, is a couple of years away?
It doesn't have to be a couple of years, but yep, that's possible. Right. We said in our meetings, one of our presidents said, there's going to be more discomfort before there's a solution that emerges. So there's at least a game plan. There are people who care and are interested. The issue is going to be, is there a commitment to resolve the issues that exist at present?
You were incredibly smooth on my first question. If you had a team in your head, do you have a team in your head? And so I can just start throwing out teams. You can tell me yay or nay if that's a team. Does that work for you?
I'm pretty good at a poker face, so
I've noticed that.
I won't play that game.
Okay.
There are realities around existing commitments that institutions have to their conferences. That's their responsibility, not mine. I have a responsibility to respect those agreements. So I'll just sit back and listen to your list as opposed to engage.
Yeah, I didn't think if I start listing out schools, you're going to. Do you think we'll see any more movement by any of the major conferences before this football season? Any announcement?
My opinion likely does not matter because they're not going to call me and ask me should I or should I not. The potential's there. It certainly is. And when I speak of wanting to be attentive to the landscape, we will be attentive to the landscape and how things develop. We have 7 weekends, I think, before the season. 6 for Vanderbilt since they play on week 0. That's a pretty tight time frame. And some of these discussions have just erupted after the Big Ten announcement. So, it could. I don't expect that to be us. But we're going to be attentive and we'll be nimble, but we're also going to be thoughtful about the cultural issues and the support and expectation issues. And we're not going to diminish who we are just to reach a number.
I know that there's a lot going on. I just want to tell you should be very proud of the job you've done. I think that goes back about 3 commissioners, quite frankly. And each of you have brought something different to the table. What you brought is, I think, a forward-thinking mindset, and it's been fascinating to watch you work. So
it's I first, and I'm supposed to hurry up on my time list, but the first time I ever visited the SEC office, it was at the invitation of Roy Kramer, and I was commissioner of the Southland Conference, and it was 1998. And I remember vividly walking into the commissioner's office like, this is a big deal. And I remember with Mike Slive one time, he asked me to sit in his chair and type an email. I'm like, wow, I'm sitting in the chair of the commissioner of the Southeastern Conference. And that moment, probably in 2004, was a big deal. And so to walk in that office every day and know both of them as friends, but then study the history. Harvey Schiller before it was a short time, but Boyd McWhorter's impact on our league. Each of us, me with Mike, Roy, and everybody back, Mike with Roy, and those back. We all stand on the shoulders of each other, if you will. And one of the great joys for me is to be able to pick up the phone and reach out to Roy at his home in Maryville and just have a conversation, which are always fascinating and informative. And the loss of Mike is one that still hurts because of the relationship he and I had. But I benefit from their work every day. And hopefully, if I do this really well, somebody will say similar kind things about me out there in the future.
You're crushing it. You're doing a great job. Commissioner,
Thank you.
We appreciate it. You don't need my endorsement, but it does mean a lot to a lot of people. Mike's live, nice enough to join us as we broadcast live from SEC Media Days. That conversation with the commish is brought to you by the home of mattresses there in Knoxville. And, man, it's the mattress place right there on Chapman Highway. When you talk about ratings, they've got it. Over 225 five-star reviews on Google. No gimmicks, just 30 to 70% off every day. That is the mattress place. It's like 2 miles from Henley Street. So if you're anywhere downtown or you have maybe a young one moving into campus, the mattress place, 30 to 70% off every day. Marine Corps owned, no gimmicks. So we have some breaking news, and that is that Tennessee, we hope to break in and visit with some Tennessee players, but they have had apparently some plane problems. Everything's fine, I'm told, but they are going to be late. They have not arrived. They were scheduled to arrive and be on Radio Row at 9 o'clock. So that is obviously not going to happen. If you're listening live, it's 9:50. So we certainly encourage you to listen at all times. But if you're listening live, we're here every day at 9 o'clock as a presentation on Off the Hook Sports. She's Amanda LaFratta. I'm Dave Hooker. Coming up on this a monster show, as it is the final day of SEC Media Days. My personal favorite in 25 years. My first SEC Media Days was 25 years ago. I've never asked for a picture with anybody, Amanda, but I said, David, I'm talking about David Cutcliffe.
Yeah.
And I said, David, I want to take a picture with you. I'm happy for you. That I think the leaving Duke was mutual. I think he was over it. I don't think he was fired as maybe he was. I don't know. But at his stage in his career, he's created, two Mannings that were first-round picks. He's done an awful lot. He's had success. So good for him. Whether or not he was fired at Duke, he has had a fantastic career now working with the SEC, trying to keep the coaches in line. He shared some stories about some SEC coaches that we can't share. But he is he's a beaut, and we got a great response from him on our YouTube page, where we want you to subscribe. So, yeah, he was just a really, really fun interview, and just a great guy. I mean, when you think about it, Amanda, I like Josh Heupel a lot, and I don't want this to sound like any sort of comparison. Please understand that. But with Josh Heupel's offense, it's about tempo. It's about speed. That's the niche. That's essentially the gimmick. Gimmick has a negative connotation, I understand.
Well, that's college football now. Like, that's
right.
why.
Right. So, but David Cutcliffe, I believe, with a pro-style offense, could have success in almost any era. I'm not going to go back to Wing T days, but 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000. I think he could have success now. And he had success at Duke before eventually it's just you can't get enough talent there. So that was a really fun conversation. I did a radio show for a fall back in 2015 after he got fired from Ole Miss. So I did a show with David for a year, and then he ended up taking the Tennessee job as the offensive coordinator when Randy Sanders decided to step away. So I know David really well. What were your thoughts on David Cutcliffe, just as an interview, as a person, all that good stuff?
I liked him a lot. I mean, I really liked him a lot. He seemed like, I don't know, like your sweet old grandpa. I don't know how to put that. He's just so kind and just so sweet. And I really, really, really just enjoyed talking to him. He was so moved by the things that he has experienced in life. And it was refreshing to see that, because you don't see that very much anymore.
Well, I can't do a better tease than that, so I'm just going to go ahead and take a break. David Cutcliffe up next as we broadcast live from the College Football Hall of Fame SEC Media Days in beautiful and hot and muggy Atlanta, Georgia. More after this. David Cutcliffe.
Folks, Gary Viles here, Viles Automotive on Callahan Drive. I've been selling cars here in East Tennessee for 27 years. In that time, I've come to realize it's not about the car. It's about you, the customer. So I'm here to take care of you just like family. Good credit, bad credit, you name it, we can get you taken care of. If we don't have it, we can find it for you. We go across the country to get any vehicle that you want. And here at Viles Automotive, we don't believe in fake numbers. We just give you great deals. And as always, we want, we need, and we appreciate your business.
Do you want to own the more that owns every job? Then get to Vassey Lawn and Garden in Cleveland and get you a Toro. I'm David Vassey, here to talk to you about Toro. With a Toro Zero Turn, you'll get more out of every minute and you'll reach the finish line faster. At Vassey's, we like to say, no matter if you're mowing 3 acres a week or 11 lawns a day, homeowners and business owners alike find confidence in equipment they can trust from top to bottom.
Vassey Lawn and Garden, Highway 60 North in Cleveland.
Man alive, it's worth the drive.
This is Steve Rain. I own the Midnight Oil and Michelin Tire Direct service station here in Ooltewah. It's not a fancy place, never has been, but it's a clean place with clean restrooms and good folks who work here. We sell gas and fix cars, nothing glamorous, but we love what we do, and we're going to keep doing it for a long time to come. There's not many real service stations left, and that's a shame. We're the guys just like the guys back in your hometown. We'll fix your tire, change your oil, and put a new set of Michelins on your car. If you want a Twinkie, you'll just have to keep on going. Thanks for the business.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
It's a beautiful place.
Wherever you are.
We're recording.
Welcome back as we are live from SEC Media Days, broadcast live from the College Football Hall of Fame in Atlanta. This is pretty cool place to be, and pretty cool to talk to this young man, David Cutcliffe, joining us, longtime Tennessee offensive coordinator, head coach at Ole Miss, head coach at Duke, and now with the SEC. And David, I want to get to what you're doing with the SEC, but you were talking right before we went on the air, and that is, this is a cool place to be. And you were talking about some of the people that you see maybe aren't with us any longer, but who are some of the faces that you've seen that bring back some pretty wild memories?
Well, it is amazing. Of course, obviously, I get to see Coach Bryant and people around him. I see players. You know, I walk in and I see Peyton right off the bat, and God forbid they put Spurrier in the same little square. I took a picture and haven't sent it yet to Peyton, but I'm trying to think of the caption, okay, to send to him. I'm sitting there looking, you know, we're going through a great change in college football. And y'all don't have to look now, but I'm looking at a coach at practice in a full suit with a hat on, a fedora hat.
All right, yeah, over my shoulder.
And they're pushing a sled. And so those people probably thought football was going to hell in a handbasket when it changed. And so I think we have to be real careful to give college football a death sentence just yet. So let's work together to maintain some of those same values that coach had that we continue to teach to young people.
Yeah, I'm on board with that for sure. And I think that these changes with the transfer rules, the NIL and all that, they can be legislated. It can happen. I don't believe it's out of control to the point of no return.
No, when I came into this role, I started hearing, we can't do that. We can't win that. And I said, wait a minute, I want to say something. I'm going to think like a coach because that's the only way I know to think. Never told a football team to quit 14 down going into the fourth quarter. Conference games are often won in the fourth quarter. Championships are won at the end of the season. Games are won in the fourth quarter. Let's be our best right now. You can find a way because it's needed to legislate this. I'm a fan of name, image, and likeness. I'm okay with the portal, and I'll explain that later. But name, image, and likeness, listen to the words. It's someone's name and their image or their likeness that someone else is using to make money. They should benefit from that. But that's earned, not a part of a recruiting process and a promise. It's earned. Your name, your image, and your likeness shouldn't be used by others to get wealthy. Okay, so it all started with the onset of video games and certain things like that. So, yeah, you know, and I tell people what becomes acceptable doesn't mean it's right. Right and wrong really don't change a whole lot over decades. Really doesn't. What's wrong is wrong.
Yeah.
Still is. So you can adjust this thing. We can win this. I know courts involved. I know, unfortunately, politicians get involved. It's let's go back to the root of caring for young people, caring for players. Look at that perspective. What can we best do for them? It's not recruit them through money. We should try to recruit players that fit our program, that have a belief system in the other players in the locker room, and I'll jump right to the portal. When coaches call me whining about the portal, I say, hush. Your job is to develop relationship with all the players in your program. There's a lot of scholarship players in your program that nobody knows their name. They're just as important. Don't run them off. Those stars are in that locker room with those guys. If they see a coach that's not loyal to his players, what do you expect back in return? You build relationships. The transfer portal is not a problem. And if a guy's selfish enough that he's going just for one reason, money, shake his hand, pat him on the rear, and said, don't let the door hit you on the way out. That guy doesn't belong in that locker room. So, no, we're not lost. We can do this thing. But it's collected. We all, as fans, we all as media, we all as players, coaches, have to speak to what's right about college football and then back it up with a value system that matches that. I know that's long, but it needs to be said. I'm not recruiting anybody anymore, so I can say what I want to say. But young people choose people, not places, and dang sure don't choose money over people. You're going to be happy. You're born to family, and then you choose your people. That's your life's path. And I've always used that in recruiting, all the way back to Peyton Manning or anybody else I've ever recruited. You're choosing people in this whole process. You want to surround yourself with people that care about you, trust, love you, and are going to be loyal to you. So I think those values still work personally.
Agreed.
So you've had the pleasure of, and probably not only the pleasure, but the challenge of coaching, Peyton, and I believe you coached Eli. So those are two of the Mannings. Now we have a third Manning coming in, which is Arch. Out of the three Mannings, who do you think is the best Manning, if you can say so? Because you said you're not recruiting anymore. So who's the best Manning and why?
Well, here is the best Manning is a guy named Archie Manning. Okay, let's go there because it's the truth. I was first exposed to Archie as an athlete in person. I was a guest of Alabama in Legion Field when Archie played against Alabama. Scott Hunter was the quarterback at Alabama. Archie was the quarterback at Ole Miss. Archie had 432 yards of total offense in a 33-32 loss. But I'm Alabama's guest, and I'm leaving there like, yeah, Archie Manning, man, yeah.
I did not. You've never told me that story.
Yeah, it's real. And so I'm just blown away at that time by him. And people, now you have this ability to watch YouTube, and Amanda, go watch Archie Manning play. Arch Manning has only played in high school at this point, so he's not in the contest. Okay, and let's not throw pressure at him. God love him. I sent him a scholarship by courier the day he was born to his mom, Ellen, and his dad, Cooper. Okay. I was the head coach at Ole Miss, and these were official scholarship papers. Nice. I was going to beat the rush, man, So, I talked with Arch early on in this process, gave him my tidbit of advice, and it was just two things. You can imagine I just said choose people. The right people is what you have to choose. And the other thing is just simply have fun and be the very best teammate that you can be, and you'll be fine. Don't try to be something other than a great teammate. And the best quarterbacks are great leaders because they're great teammates. And it also helps you just freely play the game, and God bless the era that we're in, whether it's the NFL or collegiately. How do these guys perform under the telescopic work that people do? Not just media, but fans have this ability to grade film, if you will.
I never pretended to be that proficient at football. I always lean on guys like you.
Well, I mean, but people
do.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm gonna tell you what. I was the best coach in the country every Sunday morning. Yeah. I knew everything we had done wrong.
That's right.
Yes.
And I have many early Sunday mornings where I'm like, did I do that? And So I understand the reaction people have to it, but when you start understanding the joy and the value of being in the decision-making process, the tackle, and then you got a count going 40, 39, 38. Can you imagine how much is happening for the quarterback? He's looking, making sure he knows down the distance, the ball left middle, left hash, right middle, right hash, getting the personnel from the sideline. Now he's getting a signal of a play. He's making sure he's relaying it at the line of scrimmage to his teammates. He's now focused in on what's a defense, 3 down, 4 down, any subs on the defense. We don't have a coach-to-player mic like they do in the NFL. And then that clock is ticking all the way through that. I used to tell people calling plays in the press box all those years at Tennessee was like being an air traffic controller. And people would say, well, after a big win, you're going to go party after the game? I said, hell no, I am going home and going to bed.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
But yeah, it's a fun aspect to the sport, is that you got to make a decision. And you ask Peyton if y'all get him on, he knows the Patton principle. I've always taught that to quarterbacks. Like him or not, George Patton helped us win a war in Europe because he made a decision. And then he went like hell to make sure it was the right decision. A lot of his superiors thought he was making a bad decision. Well, as a quarterback or a coach, you make a decision, and then it's your job to go like hell to make sure it was the right one.
So
that's a big deal. No, go ahead. I know I'm long-winded.
No, you are fine. You're absolutely fine. On that same note of the quarterbacks, and there are no Mannings at Tennessee now, but we do have Hendon Hooker, and we do have Nico coming in after that.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on each of those? What do you think what do you think they bring to the table?
Yeah, I recruited like crazy Hooker out of Greensboro. He went to Virginia Tech. I tried like crazy to get him at Duke. He's a talent. He's a competitor. He's a better athlete. He's long, but he's a better athlete than people might think. But I think the Josh Heupel's offense is completely suited to his skill set. And I think I know. I watched Coach Heupel and his staff at Central Florida practice. I went down there purposely to see them, and they're doing a great job with the development of him as a quarterback. And I think we're going to see some exciting things in the Southeastern Conference from a lot more teams than people might think. And I think it's going to be a fun year, and I think he will be a big part of it. Now, any quarterback that hadn't done it yet doesn't get kudos from me. Potential is really what gets a coach fired. People start believing often that somebody is all of this or that. How do you know till you get your hands on it? High school football is great. My son's a head high school football coach, but it's nothing like a high school practice. The competition collegiately is amazing. That transition is far greater from high school to the best of the best in the FBS than it is from the best of the best in the FBS to the NFL. So it's very unpredictable, and that's why people say, what happened to him? Nothing happened to him. He just wasn't quite what we thought.
You had we bumped into each other on the way out yesterday, and you had the coolest story about John Ward, about how you reinvigorated Tennessee's offense way back. Unfortunately, Tennessee hired you away from me. We were co-hosts on a radio show, and you just had to go to do this coaching thing.
Yeah.
But if you could tell the John Ward story that you told me yesterday, that was just phenomenal.
Well, the identity, I came in, and the identity coming off a losing season, and just wasn't good at Tennessee at the time. The identity of the Tennessee offense had been lost a little. Eric and Clausen had kind of gone back and forth, right. and Eric wasn't what he needed to be, and I thought we might have been a little fat at receiver at that time, even Meacham. And I'm not fond of fat receivers. Okay?
No, I know.
So
Something about fat receivers.
yeah, it's just
And really short offensive linemen.
But I also had noticed we had recruited all over the place. And I want them to understand the tradition. I've only told you part of the story. Another thing I did was on a Saturday morning, I had them all meet me at the facility at 5 a.m. and I didn't tell them what we were doing. I was good to them. Got a lot of breakfast sandwiches and had it ready. But I had a bus waiting. And so we took off in the dark. They didn't know where we were going. I knew a place up in the Smokies that I could hike to that had a great vista. And we went up there and got out of the bus and hiked together. And they were like, what the, And we get up there and we stand. And I said, guys, I made it up, of course, but I said, this is Rocky Top. I want you to understand what Rocky Top is. Look out at this. When you hear Rocky Top, it's not just a song. It's got to mean something to you. And then we spent the day and we had a great meal. Then we went back and I took them to the stadium and I made them walk up every stadium step to the very top. And the Vol sign was up there. Just back up, I understand.
It is.
I'm happy about that. My son Marcus, I hope, had something to do with that. But we get to the top, and I told them every Saturday, people from all over this state and area make that trip you just made. And I said, now we're looking at Rocky Top again. Look down on that field. They come from everywhere to watch you to perform at your highest level. And then I did the John Ward thing, where I love to hear John Ward's voice, running all the way to the state capitol, Willie Galt.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my goodness. So I called John and I said, John, I need a favor of you. I've taught the team a little bit about who you are, shown them some of the clips, but I want you to come in and voice over some highlights of these guys making plays and do it with the best John Ward. Give him 6, touchdown Tennessee. And I had these dog tags made that just said touchdown Tennessee. I can't remember what I put on the back of them, but it had the checkerboard end zone. And so we sat in there and we played the highlight, and they were like, wow. They were fired up. Then John Ward comes walking into the team room, and we pass out, and I give him a dog tag, touchdown Tennessee. He talked a few minutes in that great voice. I think of John in Tennessee football and then natural gas. Anybody's been around there a long time. Yeah. Nobody could say it like he could say it. But it was a great moment, and I love all of those young men that played on that team. And as you know, we had 2 really fine years during that run, and Eric Ainge had a heck of a run there. And that's what you got to love about it. We can't lose tradition, and we can't lose a love of the sport. We have the greatest fans in the country in the Southeastern Conference, and certainly Tennessee included. We always told them on bus tours back in the early 80s, hey, Neyland Stadium becomes the 5th largest city in the state of Tennessee on game day Saturdays. And then we used the World's Fair was here in 1982. On a game day Saturday, there was, I forget what number we threw of people right within the stadium structure. So let's not let that be forgotten. I think that is important for young people.
Well said. Lastly, just talk about your role with the SEC. What is your goal? What's the SEC's goal in you guys joining together?
Well, when they called me, it wasn't anything I was thinking about doing, but as I told them I wanted to get face-to-face, and I met the commissioner face-to-face. I'd known him, but I met his staff and his team, and I was really impressed with their commitment to excellence. And what it is to try to strengthen the commitment to excellence. I've got great relationships with all 14 coaches that were there before this role. The relations part of it is working not only with the head coaches. We have 100, and I reminded our staff, we got 140 coaches in this league called assistant football coaches that can't be forgotten in a difficult era and time to recruit, et cetera, that represent our fine institutions. We got players. We got operations people that are so important to all of this. So I'm going around to the campuses and I'm meeting with all of those groups. I go to the equipment room. I love to talk to the equipment people. You know who knows more about a program than anybody else? The guys in the equipment room.
It's true.
Equipment room is always by the locker room. They know what's up with the players. When I was coaching, I always had me a little office near the equipment room because if I needed some real advice, that's where you go. They say, hey, coach, the players are a little bit down, da-da-da-da-da. I can pick them up. You know, they know. They don't hide things from those guys. So I'm very much in that type of relationship, but I'm also kind of inserting myself legislatively. As you go up the food chain in the NCAA, you get further away from anybody that's ever had boots on the ground, so to speak, ever worked with a student athlete. I think I can give a perspective so we avoid some of the laws of unintended consequences that come from these decisions. And I'm not going to be quiet. And I told the commissioner, I'm going to think like a coach. I understand the relationship of the administrative side of it. I've served on a lot of committees all during my tenure as a head coach. So some small way, maybe we can make a difference, Dave. And we all know there's tweaks needed right now. And it's time to win in the fourth quarter. And I like that. Don't you love competing in the fourth quarter?
Yeah. I'm glad there is a fourth quarter for all of us. So
yeah, I mean,
it's fantastic.
And you know, you mentioned it about your own health circumstance, but when you're given an opportunity in the fourth quarter, and I've always told players this, 20 down, 14 down, when you get 15 new minutes in that quarter, oh my gosh, celebrate.
There's all kinds of stuff you can do with that.
We don't remember games that were blowouts. Oh, we remember fourth quarter comebacks. We celebrate the players. And then, like I've always told coaches, I love it because you think players, not plays, when you're in that circumstances. Big-time players make big-time plays in big games. So think players, not plays. And, well, right now, I'm looking for every good player I can find to help us compete in the fourth quarter with what we need to do with college football.
I said last thing, one more thing. Have you worked it out with the SEC that you can maybe work with Arch Manning in the offseason? Is that something in the – oh, come on, David. You know you're going to.
I have done some work with Arch in the past.
I know.
And I do pray for him daily. I can do that because I think he's got so much that's being looked at him. And that's not easy, folks, for anybody. He's very talented. I can tell you that from working with him. Has been for a long time. It's very obvious. But he's going to be happy with his choice. I believe that. That's a big part. He's certainly not choosing a path of NIL money or anything else. He's putting himself in what he thinks the best position it is to be the best player, but more importantly, play on a national championship team if he can.
I think financially the Mannings are doing okay, right?
I think they're doing all right,
Okay.
Although I still pay for Peyton and Eli's food when we go out to eat. You know, I take the check. I hadn't figured that one out, but Archie says he's the same way. So I'm just trying to keep the receipts to maybe one day when I'm destitute, hey, guys, please pay me back.
Just send it to Omaha Productions.
There you go. You got it.
David Cutcliffe, former Tennessee offensive coordinator and one of the best co-hosts that I've ever had, quite frankly, in radio, right up there with Amanda LaFratta. More after this. I'm Dave Hooker. This is a production of Off the Hook Sports. I have to be real honest with you. I cannot get enough of David Cutcliffe. I know I did a show with him for a year in his interim after Ole Miss, and it was just one of the more fun times I've ever had in broadcasting. So David Cutcliffe is a positive addition to the SEC. I don't have any question about that. A positive addition to your grill? Well, how about Owl's Nest Barbecue? They have all your barbecue supplies, whether we're talking about, I don't know, you need the pellets, you need the chips, you need the sauce. They have it all right there at Owl's Nest Barbecue, and right next door, Steve Ray's Midnight Oil. Steve Ray's Midnight Oil will take care of all of your service needs in the Ooltewah area. I want to thank City Heating and Air as well for helping us get down here to Atlanta, Georgia, the College Football Hall of Fame, SEC Media Days, and City Heating and Air Conditioning has been in business for over 50 years. It's about integrity, not that promised $29 service call that turns into like a $3,000 new unit. That's City Heat and Air. For Amanda LaFratta, I'm Dave Hooker. Have a fantastic rest of the day. We'll see you at 9 o'clock tomorrow live streaming. You can check us out on YouTube as well. This has been a presentation of Off